Here's another one. Christians would also censor documents that omitted any mention of Jesus. They've always been lying in the name of the Lord.
First half, the other the second half. A similar mysterious gap is found in the Annals of Tacitus. The text of the Annals survives in only two manuscript traditions, one containing the first half, the other the second half, with a section in between missing, and thus its
So this is Tacitus. The Christians go, oh, Jesus was real. Or not even just Christians, even atheists will say this. Jesus is real. Tacitus wrote about him. What, 80 years later? 80 years later, and also the part of Tacitus's book that covered the year 30 and 30, I think to 33, is removed. That's the only part of his history we have removed because there would have been no mention of Jesus, and they were embarrassed. Tacitus actually didn't mention Jesus where he should have in the book, so they removed it because it was embarrassing that there was no mention of the most important person to ever walk the earth that never walked the earth, okay? So this is, Christians even censored Tacitus just because he didn't mention Jesus. That's how much of a cover-up it is.
A similar mysterious gap is found in the Annals of Tacitus. The text of the Annals survives in only two manuscript traditions, one containing the first half, the other the second half, with a section in between missing, and thus its loss is explicable. But there is another gap in the text that is harder to explain. 2 whole years, from the middle of 29 AD to the middle of 31. That the cut is so precise and covers precisely those 2 years is too improbable to posit as a chance coincidence. The year 30 was regarded by many early Christians as the year of Christ's ministry and crucifixion, as I noted in Element 7. Robert Drews analyzed all the gaps in the Annals and concluded that this one has no more plausible explanation than that Christians excised those 2 years out of embarrassment at its omission of any mention of Jesus or associated events, like the world darkness reported in the Synoptic Gospels.
These evil Christians literally erased so much of history or failed to preserve it. They're sick. It's so destructive. They erased all these old works or failed to preserve them because it didn't fit with their Jewish narrative. Natural selectionist worker for 5 says, the most important Jewish myth to know is not from the Bible or the Talmud. It's the Golem myth. The Golem is an allegory for how Jews create fake control schemes like Christianity, Islam, communism, and more to do their bidding. That's true. We've talked about Golem before. Thank you, natural selectionist worker. Drum and Bass World says, I remember either you or someone else showing verses or comments from early Christians that say Christianity had to protect Jews, maybe right from the Bible. Yeah, I've posted other things where they outlawed paganism, but then they made special protections for Jews so they could keep worshiping. Because they needed them to keep being Jews, because that's what the prophecy foretold. They see, Christians don't really get mad at Jews for killing Jesus. They think he had to do it, and it's God's plan, and they're just going to believe in the end. So it's all according to the plan. That's instead of Gentiles opposing Jews because they think they're chosen by God and they want to conquer the whole world with their Messiah and their God. It's the Christians' problem is they don't believe in Jesus, but they're actually okay with the Jewish agenda, all of the nations worshiping the God of Israel as Noahides. They're okay with that. They want the same thing.
Tacitus digresses on Christianity in his coverage of the year 64 in such a way that guarantees he made no mention of it earlier, if the passage there is authentic. Although Tacitus surely must have discussed other events under Pontius Pilate. So we can be certain Christians weren't trying to hide anything embarrassing said about Jesus, but the embarrassment of saying nothing was evidently enough to motivate their targeted destruction of the corresponding text.
So we would have had all these first century histories, but the Christians got rid of them or didn't save them because they didn't mention Jesus. That's literally what happened.